everyone. I'm Dr. Jenelle Kim, and this is The Experts. I am here today with a friend and a truly amazing and inspiring and authentic woman, Krista Williams. Before we start our conversation, which I cannot await, we actually can never stop talking when we are together, but now you can all witness. I would like to tell you a little bit more about who Krista is. And I mean, I can only speak for so long, so it would last for 2 hours if I told you all the things. Krista Williams is a leading voice in the world of modern spirituality, wellness, and self-development. She is the creator of the best-selling Life Edit course and new modern tarot decks. I'd like some of those, please. And she is the co-host of Almost 30, which is one of the top 50 podcasts worldwide. And if that isn't enough, she also hosts Morning Microdose, also one of Spotify's top new podcasts. And it's been a minute, so it's still on top, okay? Let me just say that. Through her retreats, courses, and coaching, Krista blends deep intellectual exploration with heart-centered wisdom, all rooted in her own personal journey of overcoming anxiety, career burnout, which we will definitely touch on, and major life transitions. Her mission is to help others access their own spirituality. With a natural ability to ask deep and soulful questions, Krista brings warmth, humor, and authenticity to every conversation. Let that be known. Her newly released book, Almost 30, a definitive guide to the life you love for the next decade and beyond, explores themes of identity, healing, intentional living, and the permission to evolve. It offers practical tools, my favorite kind, and personal insights for navigating life with clarity, presence, and purpose. Krista is not only a podcaster and author, but also a mentor and thought leader dedicated to guiding others towards inner awakening and aligned living. Krista, I'm so excited for our conversation.
Same. Just two gals.
Yeah, that's right.
Let us just sit back and relax.
I know, as I will do.
As you will do.
Okay, so we have so many things to talk about, but I would like to begin by going back. What was your childhood like? Okay. Just we're jumping in, what were you like? Did you always think you'd be doing all of this?
I kind of always felt different. I grew up in a very small town in Ohio. It was very conservative, not a lot of spirituality, not a lot of imagination, not a lot of creativity. Not many people did what they loved.
Right.
So I didn't really grow up seeing people that were living a fully expressed life. And I always knew that I wanted to do something big. I always knew that I had a purpose. I always felt like I was made for more. But when you're younger and you don't really know how that will be experienced, it's really stressful. And I found so much anxiety around the belief that I was made for more, but I didn't know what that meant and I didn't know how to experience it. So most of my life when I was younger, was actually really painful. I felt very different. I felt like I didn't fit in. And I felt like I wanted something bigger for my life. I think I really turned the corner when I awoke into my spiritual practices when I was in my early 20s, almost my Saturn Return period. And I decided to create a life around my spiritual practice and around being a spiritual being, and knowing that I was made for more and really figuring out how I could serve with that. So I've always felt a little different. I think a lot of people can relate to that feeling, but I'm so grateful now that I see that difference as something that's beautiful rather than something that's bad.
That was so beautiful, and you saw me kind of file. Okay, ask Krista about that. So you said something. What did you say? What was that pivotal? You're even talking the planetary aspect of things. I'm taking my
Saturn Return. Have you heard of that?
I am familiar. Now,
Okay.
I'm very connected to all things universe, but I don't know all this, so I'm always very interested in this aspect.
So Saturn Return. So basically, in your late 20s, from 27 to 30, there's a really important astrological event that happens. It's called a Saturn Return.
Okay.
And in the Saturn Return period, Saturn, the taskmaster planet, almost like the cosmic daddy, comes back to the same point in the sky as when you were born. So this really brings a lot of energy of clarity, of clearing, and it's one of those things that makes you look at every single area of your life and to see if you're aligned with your soul. So oftentimes when we have things that come up in our life to make sure we're living aligned, it means we're leaving a lot behind.
Yes, of course.
For me, that was a rock bottom period. For a lot of people, the Saturn Return feels like a rock bottom. We're literally leaving behind the old life that we're in, and we're moving towards the life that's meant for us. And that could mean jobs losses, that could mean leaving relationships, ending friendships. It could mean financial loss, financial gain. It's just a really time of change and transition. Not only in that period too, there's also your prefrontal cortex coming online. So your prefrontal cortex comes online around 26, and that's really responsible for conscious thinking. That's responsible for you having, thought about the future now more so than just the present moment.
Right.
So an example I always love to say is, when you're early 20s, you might get a little drunk and drunk dial your ex, and you're like, whatever. But in your later 20s, when your prefrontal cortex is online, you're going to maybe get a little drunk. Maybe you won't even get drunk at that point. But you'll think, I don't want to call this person because I know in the next week, this might make me sad or this might have something come. So you're just thinking more forward. So it's a really pivotal time. And I think for me in my late 20s, I felt really lost. I felt really confused because there was a timeline for life that I was supposed to be on, and I wasn't on that timeline. I wasn't on the timeline for having kids by 30. I wasn't on the timeline for being married by 30. I wasn't on the timeline for having my life figured out. I didn't have a car, or I had a car. I didn't have a home. I didn't have all the things people said you should have. And
these
I felt a lot of
rules,
shame
these guidelines that we have, that we
And
create.
so a lot of the work that we do at almost 30 is really helping people to see that they're never behind in life. They're just becoming. And I wish I would have known that during that time.
I love that. And I love that we just acknowledge that your incredible podcast is called Almost 30, because I was going to ask you this, but of course we're connected that way and you already answered it, which is, why did you name it this? And I love that it is connected to those cycles of life.
Yeah.
Because in all of the ancient medicine philosophy, myself coming from Eastern, that is very much, even in the way we understand the body, it comes in cycles, right? 7, 8, depending on masculine, feminine, and to pay attention to that, zoom out, there's certain principles that exist. And the way I always love to just kind of communicate this to people who might not be as, aware of these practices, these ancient practices and philosophies, is that it's existed for that long. And also when you look at all this different cultures, they didn't all have a meeting together thousands of years ago, like, okay, you talk about this, I'm going to do it over here.
Yeah.
But what a beautiful thing, and to look at life that way.
And a lot of different spiritual lineages and practices, like Kabbalah, for an example, they say that you're building your vessel until 30, and at 30 you're allowing the golden creator light or creator light to channel through your vessel. So there's that, and then in Jesus, the teachings of Jesus, he really became a teacher when he was 30 until 33.
Right.
So there's a lot of magic around that time. There's a lot of beauty around that time. And I think when people think about life, there's this big moment of 30 that feels like we have to have it all figured out by that point.
Yes.
And I think for so many people, they don't have it figured out in the way that they thought. And to give people freedom and permission to know that their life is going to look different than other people's, and that you're never late for your own life.
Yeah, I absolutely love that. And 3 is significant. It does happen to be my favorite number, as we both just said that. Yeah. And 3 is something that's always significant and just keeps kind of hitting me in our conversation, that if you kind of zoom out and look at so many different ways of the universe, the Tao, 3 is in the Trinity. Yep. It is mind, body, spirit. Yep. I teach Chunji-in, like martial arts and Qigong, which is heaven, earth, human. So there's so many different ways. I just feel like I have to say that out loud. And so here you are, which ties into everything that I wish to share, with anyone who is not aware, and those who are, of your Almost 30 podcast, your Almost 30 book that you just launched. So it is all very, purposeful and meant to be.
Yeah, and now I'm over the hill. I'm past 30, so
that's really. How old are you?
I know.
Can I ask you that?
I don't know.
Not supposed to. Okay.
I literally don't even. I'm
not supposed to ask people that. I shouldn't have asked you that.
Someone I could be wanting to date might be listening, so I can't.
Okay, don't say that. Don't say anything.
I'm 35.
You don't have to answer.
Yeah.
I
don't know why. I'm 35.
Well, I'm going to be 43, so I hope you feel really.
No, I mean you're stunning. It's not even about the age. I think. We just created something that's funny because it's still relevant. Like even in the book, we just wanted a guidebook for people turning 30, but even being someone that's 35, so much of the principles still stand. Like we talk a lot about burnout. We talk a lot about the body. Like
absolutely.
We talk a lot about things that when I was reading the audiobook, I was still really struggling with. Like I felt a little bit of shame when I was reading about burnout and this period in time in my late 20s when I felt so burnt out. And then to be now and I'm like, oh no, I'm still almost feeling on the edge of burnout. And I'm still there. So the lessons and themes that we learn in our Saturn returns still can stick with us if we really don't figure out how to be with them.
I absolutely love that. What do you think has changed though in your burnout, if I may say?
In my burnout relationship?
Yeah.
I would love to
hear
your relationship with burnout.
Yeah, that's why I'm asking. I'm ready.
Back then, what was running me was a part of me that believed that I wasn't enough, and a part of me that believed that my worth was tied to my productivity. And what's running me now, I'm much more conscious of that relationship. So it was an unconscious running.
Yes.
So during my late 20s, I was working a full-time job that I felt
wanted to hear
unaligned
this
in.
too. Okay.
I was driving, downtown LA every single day, and we were building almost 30. We were recording every night on the weekends. We were on the phone talking about things. We were just doing the most. We were on a world tour when we were working our full-time jobs.
Yeah.
And so what was running me was this fear that I wasn't going to make it, this desire to leave the corporate job, this, like scarcity mindset. But
Yes.
now my relationship with burnout, I'm much more attuned to when I'm going to reach it. I'm much more attuned to the softness that I need. And I think I can just catch myself more rather than when I'm running unconsciously by it.
I love all those things. I'm taking it all in.
Yeah.
One of the things that is the 8th chapter, 8th key of living meditation is called Be Like Bamboo. And it sounds very mysterious,
beautiful.
but it is one of my favorite things.
Love that.
And I just heard you say the softness, which is something that
Yeah.
kind of going there with you,
Yeah.
that is something that has very much changed in my life, in my
Yes.
20s versus now in my 40s.
Yes.
And I do. I mentioned my age a lot to the point that I had to kind of acknowledge, why do I do this?
Yes.
And I believe that in my mind, when I reached 40, when I was 20,
Yeah.
it would be that people would take me more seriously, right? I
Totally
wouldn't look
agree.
so like,
Totally agree.
all the things. And
Yeah.
I'd have the wisdom, and I'd be at the certain energy in life. And so,
Yeah, I
but-
think that women and the age relationship is so funny because it's like, some can find it so empowering and some can find it shameful.
Yes.
But I love the bamboo thing that you mentioned because what I think is powerful about that is not only softness, but it's about flexibility.
that's the most important.
Yes.
Rooted but flexible.
Yeah.
I used to say a lot, go with the flow. But then I looked around, Krista, and I saw, I'm a Taoist by nature, so it's very like rooted in nature and the universe. Balance is everything. And I saw, with respect, for lack of better way of putting it, that people were going with the flow but didn't have a root, and that can actually be very dangerous.
Yeah.
I'm just going to get right to the point.
Yeah, I see that often
Yeah.
in the spiritual space. I think.
Yes, particularly.
And I've been in the spiritual space for my work for the past 10 years.
Okay.
I've been studying spirituality for 18 years. And what I've noticed is there was a period in time when I was like doing all the spiritual consumerism.
Yes.
It was like all the tarot, all the crystals, all the readers, all the practices, all the types of things. And it was just like this consuming all of this stuff. And so much of that, if it's not integrated, doesn't even really work or do anything. And now my spiritual practice is so simple. Like everything is just so simple. I've read the books, I've done the things, I've seen probably 400 to 500 practitioners in my line of work because we do what we do. I've done all the retreats. And just now being like, what actually matters and is meaningful to me, and what am I doing for spiritual entertainment or escapism, and what am I doing for true, like the truth of making me better, or the truth of making me more whole or find more peace. And I think when we come into this space, we can get really excited, which is beautiful. But I think having that simplicity, like you were talking about, is so important.
That's my favorite thing right now.
Yeah.
That reminder. And things shift always, like
Yes.
rooted in the principle, but it is that balance. And it's
Yes.
not always just a balance of when you're at a low, because
Yeah.
those are the ones that we focus a lot on
Yes.
for all the reasons. But it's also a balance when you're high, just to
Yes.
stay consistent, and be
Yes.
natural. That's my
Yes.
favorite word, and that's what I hear you say.
Yeah.
you
Oh,
know?
yeah. I think what's been interesting about evolving too over time is like with my emotional regulation too, because when we're thinking about the bamboo, I'm like, what I've found to be really helpful is having emotional flexibility.
Yes.
And having just flexibility in response to everything. Because when we're
necessary.
rigid, that's when we make meaning of things. That's when we get upset. Like as an example, I got in a car accident last week. I was pulling into this parking lot and the guy was like, "You have plenty of space, come on."
Oh, goodness.
Didn't. I was like completely just ripping.
Where was the space?
Literally ripping the side of my car. I
Oh
was
my
like
gosh, Krista.
dead stare, just
Right.
kept driving. And I was like, you know what?
what can you do?
What can I do? I'm like, I have to get my car fixed. That's the truth.
Yes.
I could go from here, Krista, I'm fine, to I have to get my car fixed, or I could do this whole drama story of all of this, everything, all the drama. And it's like, the outcome is still the same.
Always.
So how I regulate and in with my emotions creates my experience. So I'm just going to be completely neutral about it and be like, yeah, this is what it is.
Yeah,
I got to
that
get my car
truly
fixed.
is. I keep saying it because it doesn't happen all the time that
Oh, yeah.
these principles
And
are
I'm not
spoken in
perfect,
such
yeah.
a way. No, because they're, but what is perfect?
Yeah.
I mean, and we don't have to, it almost sounds cliche,
Yeah.
but seriously, it's
Yeah.
always the balance. And one thing that when I'm teaching lately, I say, mostly, or to begin as a reminder to myself is, 90% and probably much more, probably 98% of the things that we worry about never happen.
Oh, I know.
They never happen.
I know. I see that
in that manner.
I see that with my clients. I work one-on-one with women, and I love and I'm obsessed with them. And when you are working with someone in that capacity, much like a therapist, I'm not a therapist as a coach at all, but you get access to someone's psyche and someone's thought processes and how much energy you'll see. And because I'm with them, I'm not in my experience, so I'm not saying that I don't do this, but how much energy you'll see people really spending on realities that don't exist and things that they could get clarification on, but they're choosing not to. So an example, you have a friend that you feel awkward with or you feel uncomfortable with, and instead of literally just going to that person and asking them to clarify, you're spending a whole week in your head assuming all these things. And that's why Byron Katie's work, the work and the 4 questions is so powerful, because it speaks to that. But so much of our reality is truly in our own head, and how we feel is just created in our own mind. And when we realize that, it's so liberating, I think, from my perspective.
Couldn't agree more. One of the things that keeps coming to mind, which is something that I wish to share, it's like one of the most profound of these principles is, from nothing comes everything. And that's something I'm starting to share more and more, because I do believe that it's going to resonate. And that really is the Taoist, and I keep saying that for all the reasons, but also the ancient practices, as I call them, medicine, movement, and mindset. So it's everything.
Love that.
Literally has existed for 10,000 years, right? And I remind people now that it started with the Taoist immortals, which I think is very interesting.
Say more.
Right? And so immortals, and I want to switch over the conversation because I'd like to know your thoughts, but 10,000 years ago, they weren't even trying to understand like how to live happily, which I don't even believe. It's peaceful as far as I'm concerned, and how to have the longevity and however they worded it. But they literally wanted to be immortal. Like they never wanted to die.
Wow.
And they wanted to be that, for all we know, quite frankly, they could still be in the mountains.
Honestly, it could be real.
I mean, that's a long time, but I don't even know about that. But, so that is basically.
That was the goal, to be immortal.
That was their goal.
Do you think that was just a phrase of speaking, or do you think that was like truly?
No, when you look at those practices and the legends, because it's a legend to that point, but that's where Eastern medicine started. That's where Eastern philosophy started. And we're talking one of the oldest, cultures, histories, period, China, and much of India. We can go into all this.
Totally.
We'll talk another time. I can share all that stuff. But the whole point is, one of the main things they talked about, because the Tao is the universe, from the universe came in young, so from nothing comes everything.
Wow.
And I've heard you say that a couple of times, but it's like, ultimately, and even you were talking at 27, 28, almost 30, that if you're able to consistently empty yourself, let things go, detach, which does not mean you're not connected. It actually means you have more energy for that.
Totally.
That is how you can let more things come in.
Yeah. I feel like what's helped me the most detach is, have you heard of internal family systems?
No.
So there's a psychotherapy technique called internal family systems, and it's what I teach and practice with my clients, and it's really powerful. It's founded by someone named Dick Schwartz, and he actually founded it from working with women in eating disorder clinics. So he was noticing that when someone has an eating disorder, they're often having 2 experiences.
Okay.
They have the one part of them that wants to be healthy and well, and then they have the other part of them that will binge or overeat or restrict. I think I've even, I've struggled with my body and eating, so I know that experience. There could also be the part of you that wants to go for the promotion, but is also really scared because you feel like you're going to get rejected. So being able to be with these parts or these multiple experiences at once and come to the truth, and when we see them as parts, our brain is actually able to process them better, has helped me to come at more peace with all the changes and transitions in my life and really come to like myself and my truth. Because when I can look at that part of me that's like, oh, I'm really scared for the promotion, I'm afraid I'm going to fail. I can be like, tell me about failure. Tell me about the time that you failed that makes you scared. Oh, I went for, cheerleading and I didn't get it in 3rd grade. I still love you. I still honor you. No matter what, even if you failed, I got you. And by loving, honoring, and accepting this part, you can liberate that part from making you scared in this now moment. So that's kind of subconscious reprogramming work, but that's been really helpful for me, because I think when we look at ourselves, there's so much that's going on in our psyches and our experience that when we can kind of unblend from it and pull it outside of us, it can make it so much easier to process and be with.
And one of the things you said, Krista, that I have said to you numerous times now that really resonated, because I find it helpful to the people that I come across, including myself, is to literally speak out loud. Like, because I call it like our brain short circuits.
Yes.
And if you don't say something out loud or acknowledge it, so I'd like you to share, but that is a way which you just started talking about, that you can kind of maybe take it out, hear yourself say it. You have to acknowledge first, right?
Yes.
And so.
Yeah, so one of the practices that I do that makes me look insane, as like the many of them.
Listen, I'm talking to myself all the time.
Same. is I talk to myself out loud.
Yes.
So, even at the house this morning, I was just rushing around doing all these things. And I was like, stop for a second. I was like, whoa, girl, you are moving quick. And it even brings a lightness to the experience.
Absolutely.
I'm not shaming myself. I'm not judging myself. I'm just noticing in this moment, hey, girl, we're moving a little fast. Let's slow down. I'll also process things out loud with myself. So instead of always going to a friend or always going to a partner or someone else, I will talk to myself as if I'm my best friend.
Yes.
I'll be like, oh, I'm really disappointed by the way this went or this, experience, or maybe I'm scared about this thing. How would I talk to my friend in that scenario?
Yes.
How would I experience that with my friend? And then I think it's really beautiful if we can admit truth to ourselves internally and externally. So recently, just an example, we're in our book launch process, and that means we're doing the most.
Yes.
And so recently, this past week, I was feeling pretty low because when you're running at 100 miles an hour, you're actually running on a cocktail of adrenaline and cortisol, which can kind of make you feel high and makes you feel really good.
And then you also have a serious low.
Exactly. So then the body is addicted to this, and then you're not doing as much, and you have a really serious low after that. So I was feeling really, really low, and I was alone, and I just admitted to myself, I was like, I'm really sad.
Yeah.
And just even taking the energy out of my mind and just bringing it to the truth of like, okay, I'm sad. I'm acknowledging the truth of what is. Now what do we want to do with it? Do we want to be in it? Do we want to move on from it? Do we want to make peace with it? It just takes us to that next step to bring something out of our head and into reality so that we can do something with it.
No, this is what we saw in each other, right away.
Yes.
And it's beautifully put, and I don't know if this conversation in this manner, I have not heard it so often like this. And
How
I think
did you
it's so
speak with
important.
yourself?
Very similar. I did the same thing today, to be honest.
Yeah.
I've been traveling a lot, doing all the things. My boys, they're out of school now.
Yes.
I mean, we get the picture.
Yes.
And quite frankly, this morning, 2 times I talked to myself in the bathroom when I was getting ready.
Yep.
And the bathroom tends to be with tell me your thoughts,
Yeah.
is a very, feng shui is energy. It's more than just what we think, all the rules and all the guidelines, but it really is just the energy of places.
Yes.
And the bathroom does tend to be a place of purification and creativity.
Wow.
So it's a place that a lot of things will come to me,
Wow.
right? Or I will let them go.
Wow.
And you have quiet time. I'm like getting ready. So my
I
boys
love
are
that.
doing their
I
thing.
know I love my time.
And then in the car.
Yes,
You
I
know?
do in the car.
Yeah.
It's really great to just process and move energy
Yes.
in the car.
Yes.
You know what, honestly, this is another insane thing. In LA, there's traffic. I've screamed.
Oh, yes, no, I
I've
know.
screamed in the car.
Yes.
I've just been sometimes you can stimulate your vagus nerve too by
Yes.
just sighing really loudly, sort of regulating your system.
So Eastern medicine, Qigong, which is what I
Yes.
teach, breath work, these things all calm our nervous system. But what I love to share is that actually screaming regulates our liver qi. The liver is the general of our body.
Wow.
So stagnation is the culprit of everything. Our mind, spirit, body,
Wow.
right? And so one of the things that helps our liver is sighing. So literally, or when we breathe in, you can feel it right now.
I know right now.
It's the whole thing.
It's funny how resistant we are to the simple things.
Oh, that's my whole. If there's one thing, it's
Yeah.
get back to this. Stop making
Simple.
life so hard
I
all the
know.
time.
I think for, when I first
Myself
moved
included.
to Los Angeles, I was so on a spiritual high of doing all the things, and we had started the podcast, so we were just, and I'll never forget, I was going from a cryo appointment to my acupuncture and to yoga. And I was
Yes.
late from
Yes.
LA traffic, and I would get to yoga, and I'm so stressed
Yes.
out. I'm unwell.
Yes.
And I just was like, what are you even doing this for? Are you doing this to feel well or be stressed?
Yes.
Why are you stacking all of this? Do you even need it? It just really woke me up where I was like, I actually would be less stressed and more at peace if I was just at home.
Yes.
What are we doing with all of the things and the practices and the consumption and all of this? It's if it's not making us feel happy or at peace.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's the living meditation that I speak of, whatever we want to call it.
Yes.
That is the constantly checking back in, reflecting, doing what we can to reflect and help ourselves.
Yeah.
And it's okay.
Where do you feel like people don't get that? Because I know for me, my living meditation was created through meditation to have the witness state.
Mm-hmm.
The witness state of witnessing myself in every moment allows me to be adjusting, changing, shifting, allows me to notice my energy or notice things. It's like I can be here with you, but I'm also witnessing what's going on. So I can be like, oh, my hip's a little tight, I should loosen, or okay, we should say this. So what do you think people, do you think not everyone has the witness state or is able to cultivate a meditative state, or what do you think?
Okay, how I will answer this in this moment is that I do believe, key number one, we went from Be Like Bamboo K8 to key number one is know your true self.
Yeah.
I believe that we live in a time where, listen, 20 years ago, when I started in the beauty and wellness industry, making formulas, right? Making products, teaching about meditation. Didn't even think about talking about martial arts, because that would have been, talking at the Tao. It was, no one knew what I was talking about,
Wow.
okay? I say that because now fast forward 20 years and here we are and everyone's looking and it's everywhere. I couldn't be more grateful. So I have to start with that. And I want to close it down because I don't want to take up too much time.
No. I just want to get more. I want to get more comfortable.
Yes, no.
Because I'm locked in.
No, do the whole thing.
Like you're talking about the Tao, I'm locked in.
Yes, absolutely. So, okay. So at the end of the day, not at the end of the day, let me go back a little bit. We're now in a time where there's so much information.
Yeah.
And it's coming in like so fast.
Yeah.
Really, it's all the ancient medicine, ancient philosophy, I just have to know, right? Combined with modern day.
Yeah.
It's the East, West, old and new. However, I feel like we get so caught in our mind.
Yeah.
And that's something we all have. That's the human nature.
I know.
We want to think, but remember, we are mind, body, spirit.
Yep.
We have to remember that, the Trinity, right? Heaven, earth, human, mind, body, spirit. If we are not connected, good luck, nothing is ever going to flow. But it's a constant journey. It's a constant process. It's always active. It never stops. That truly, that's yin and yang, okay? And so we're in a place right now that we keep looking outside of ourselves for answers, which is very human of us. We wish to have the answer. We wish for direction. Even when it comes to children, I could stir up a lot of things because it can sound super tough, but the way I was raised and by the most compassionate, my father was the most compassionate, my mother was so loving. The greatest love is discipline. The greatest love is direction because we crave that, okay? So kind of summing it up, as human beings, we look for the answer, but what we have to remember, know your true self, key number one of living meditation, as has been handed down through 9 generations in my lineage, is you have to look to yourself first. All of the answers that we wish for in this life are found within ourselves and in nature around us. And so if we can just keep kind of coming back to that, then that is security. Because in conclusion, we keep pointing outwards. When we take things outside of ourselves, that is chaos. It's scary to put it back in. You are the one that can make a choice. At the end of the day, you can't control anything, but you can control how you react or respond to something. You can control how much energy you wish for it to take from you or to give from you. That's that. It has to come back to you.
I feel like it's interesting too because I've seen people when they're shifting that gaze outward to inward, it's almost like, I think it takes sometimes a moment for the intuition or the self to kind of come online.
Yes.
Because if we're so used to looking outside, and I think the way this happens is, immediately waking up and getting on your phone.
Yes.
In that tender time when your brain is really susceptible to information in the morning and night, to just go on your phone, you're immediately putting the gaze outward to what everyone else is doing. And then it's really getting like so much opinion and information and data, and it's all, like you said, keeping in the mind. That's what I would say with any of my clients or anyone that I work with. The greatest pain is with the people that are fully in the mind.
Yes.
That are fully
our mind is the most painful.
Run the experience. And when I shifted my priority to being more in my soul and to having a spiritual experience mostly, where everything I do is spiritual, that's when I really became the most happy and at peace.
Yes.
And that's when my life became the most creative, because it was my soul that was creating the experience, not just like my mind, which is actually very limited.
So beautiful. So then let me ask you, how did that shift when you had this moment, right? So if I'm gathering and doing kind of the story of Krista's life properly. So you started the podcast, you were working very hard in that place. Then you had the pivot while you were still doing it. So what changed and what evolved? How do we get to this beautiful book?
Yeah, I mean, in the 10 years we've been doing the show, so much has changed. Our relationship, I was in a long-term relationship, turned into a marriage, now I'm divorced. I was on just a specific path and timeline, and now I'm not. But I think one thing I've learned about spirituality or health and wellness, and you know this as well, it's not just one thing. It's multiple little moments and little decisions. It's meeting one person. It's reading one book. It's reading one quote, going to one retreat. It's one meditation. It's one moment. And so these different experiences in life have cultivated this really beautiful journey for me that's just been so deep and so transformative. And I think if I wouldn't have committed to being different, to stopping drinking when I was in my early 20s, to, going to live off grid, to quitting my first job. Like, I was in my early 20s, people would have thought I needed to be committed. The way how I was just like fully committed to my own path. But the thing about our soul is that it's going to take us where we need to go. And if the more that we can lean into it and surrender to it, the more enjoyable, the more beautiful, the quicker our dream life becomes to manifest. And I think that I've really now surrendered to the path my soul wants. And I think a part of that was having this book come in.
Please.
When you have any type of platform, just for a little BTS, they'll, publishers will run and write a book with you. And so we kind of knew that we had that potential, but I never felt honestly qualified. You know, one thing about me is I'm going to be in integrity with what I'm doing and what I'm saying. So when we had people reach out, I'm like, I don't feel like I'm qualified to write a book. I'll never forget, like 6 years ago, I was on a podcast and it was a advice show. And I was like, I'm not qualified to give advice. Like, I didn't feel good about my life. Like, I didn't feel like I could do this. So at this point, 2 years ago, when we first started, we had our agent reach out and I was like, we're ready. Like Lindsay, my best friend and co-host, we were like, we're ready. I actually feel like I've embodied the wisdom that I'm sharing. I feel completely qualified to write and tell people about living a life that they love. And so we wrote it in 2 years, and now it's really a guidebook for people to go through times of change. You don't have to be almost 30 to listen. But it's everything I've learned on my path and journey. So we have really vulnerable stories from Lindsay and I. We also have pass the mic sections from our guests.
Love that.
So we've had some of the most powerful people in the space on.
I know. I wish if we're going to have you back on at some point.
Yeah.
Because one of the things that I want to know is like, okay, you don't have to name people unless you so choose, but who stuck out and what
we have
what
like
were the
Glennon
things
Doyle,
and,
Mel Robbins, Jay Shetty, you know,
Yeah.
Gabby Bernstein, Roddy DeVlukia Shetty, like just like some of the most powerful people in the game. And what sticks out, I guess, about all of them is that they are incredibly resourced and supportive. They take on support really well. They have really amazing boundaries.
That's good to know.
And they have spaciousness in their schedule. I've never met one of the people at the very top that have not had spaciousness in their schedule, a lot of support around them, and their priorities really straight. And they also prioritize their health in a really real way.
My goodness,
Like they
Krista.
have like their schedules are dialed health-wise.
Yes.
And they're just amazing. So we have a lot of sections from them, but I'm just so grateful that I was able to kind of put everything I've learned in this place that people can read, you know, at home or wherever they want to take it.
Oh my gosh, and the points that you just made, I like had to close my eyes and
I totally know.
confirm it because
Yes.
that is just absolutely.
That's a really powerful thing that you brought up because, and that's a practice people can take is, and I do that as well. When something feels really good, it's almost like closing your eyes and going inward and having this cellular experience of remembering or tuning in.
Yes.
Sometimes I'll tap
Yes.
on my body. If I'm feeling really loved or I'm feeling really good in a moment, the way that we can recreate or be in a reality that feels better than the one we're in now is by really double clicking on the moments where we feel good or the things that we want to keep or the things that we want to learn.
Yes.
And so having just like this psychosomatic experience of a pause when something feels good, when something feels true, when we don't want to forget something is really a beautiful practice.
Yes, I really appreciate that. And then, if I may, letting something go as well. A lot of what I teach lately, when I go to teach, because there's many different movements and techniques, so I feel compelled to share this real quickly, is that through breath, through certain Qigong movements, and it doesn't even have to be complicated. Literally breathing in, as you exhale, you move it away.
Yes.
You let it go, you detach. I taught my best friends, and now I'm sharing it with more and more people.
I love
You'll see
that.
me walking, you talk about talking to yourself,
Yes.
you'll see me walking down the street.
I love it.
And whatever does not feel correct, because I am very, very aware of
Yes.
myself and my surroundings.
Totally.
I will like do all the without a sword, but my hands are whatever
Yeah.
feels good to let it go,
Yeah.
to detach, because
Yeah.
it is a real thing.
100%. I always
so,
say I do not consent.
Yeah.
Like if someone's
Yes.
having a conversation that I feel like is evil eye or I feel like is gossip or
Right,
negative, I'm like,
right.
I don't consent.
No, this does not belong to me. I
No.
do not consent. I detach from this.
Yeah.
This
Like
is
if
not,
I like turn on the radio and some song is like really
even
dark
that,
and weird,
that's
I'm like,
okay.
I don't
We literally
consent.
have to have 1 million
Yeah.
more conversation,
Yeah.
which we will, but for
I just,
people. But
I'm just like, and I
Yes.
do not consent says I'm saying no to this energy
Yes.
because I want to be in a different energetic experience.
yes, and let it be known, it works
Yep,
that way.
Yeah, that's how exactly it responds to you.
Or
and
if
your
you're
clarity.
feeling times where, okay, now we're gonna like fit it all in the last 2
Yeah, I
minutes. If there are times, and especially when we go through so many different things, we shared
Yeah.
that before, and sometimes you'll check in like, my goodness, I feel overwhelmed right now, especially when we can handle more, and you don't
Yes.
always notice, right? Or I'm feeling sad. Or sometimes though, you'll feel a certain way. You'll just feel down.
Yeah.
Like, and sometimes, as aware as I know I work on constantly, it's very important to me. It's a choice. But sometimes I might go a couple days, which is not totally normal.
Yeah.
And I'll be like, what is going on? Like I know myself well
Yeah,
enough
totally.
that something's off.
Yeah.
And then I'll realize, okay, I do believe that there's something that I have attached to, whatever that might be. And it doesn't have to be so out there. Let's not make this what it isn't. It's just energy.
Yeah.
And then I will consciously acknowledge,
Yes.
say it out loud, and say, I don't want this to be a part of me anymore. I wish for all the unwanted energy, anything that does not serve me, to detach. And
Yeah.
you will feel better.
Yeah.
I know
That's
you know
real.
this,
Oh, I
but let
know
it be
that.
known.
I think, and anyone can do that, just noticing, as a simple practice, how your energy is around people.
It's the
Just
most
being
know
like,
your true self.
Okay, I'm with my partner, I'm with my boss, I'm with this client, I'm with this potential date, like, how does my body and energy feel? Like, do I feel like I'm getting energy? Do I feel like it's being taken away? I'm really, really mindful of who gives me energy and who doesn't.
Yes, I hear you.
And when you can kind of recalibrate yourself, and I recalibrate myself every night
constantly
to my original soul frequency, my divine blueprint, because that's how I want to live, and I don't want to be living in the experience of someone else's energy attached to me or working through me.
Right. I love that, Krista. I wish we had, days.
I know.
But we will.
We will.
I know, I'm grateful.
I love
really.
you.
We're having a moment. Okay, everyone just goodbye. Thank you for coming.
We love you guys. We'll see you soon.
Okay,
Bye.
but no, very important. Let us know, where can everyone find the beautiful book?
Oh, yes.
The guide. I like that better because it's meant to be with you.
Yeah.
I hear you. Just tell me all the things. Where
so you
can
can get
everyone
it
find?
on Audible, Amazon, Barnes & Noble, Target. You can listen to it on Spotify if you have Spotify Premium, free actually, which is super dope. But
that is.
You don't have to be 30 to listen. It really is, the guidebook to remind you that you're not behind, you're becoming.
Yes.
And there's sections on money, on body, on nourishment, on purpose, on soul, on spirituality. It's just a really rich, it's a full meal, and I'm excited for them to get
And then, of course, your podcast.
Yes, almost 30. And then I'm on Instagram at It's Krista. It's ITSK or ISTA.
Love that.
And I'm at itskrista.com for retreats or coaching or anything like that.
Beautiful. Well, anyone and everyone would be so fortunate. I want to choose the correct word, to be in your energy. And I don't usually say it that way. I really don't. From the moment I saw you, it's like a love story.
I know, it is literally.
But it's true. You come across certain people who just truly they have a light. And you want to be around them. And I love people. I love human beings. I love all of it. However, I don't feel that very often because I am protective.
Oh, I know. Same.
Let me be real clear.
Me and my best friend, my co-host, we left some interview, and someone said something about us glowing or something.
Yeah,
and I was like,
it's
people say that we glow. And she's like, it's because we have souls.
Yeah. Well, listen, you have to connect to your soul just as much as you have to connect to all the things.
And I laughed. I was like, it's so true. The more soulful you are, the more you glow.
Yes.
Like, you
Life
just have
is
a
short.
light about you.
Let's
let's
be in that place.
Well, thank you guys for listening.
Grateful.
We love you.
Thank you so much.
Bye.